or a reader. That's how creative he was. He was well read, and not only a great reader and studier, he was innovative in his thinking and did a lot of research as well. The early days that we spent together was a lot of time that we spent on what is known as Hurricane Creek. The people who lived there recall it as Harkin Creek, is the way they pronounce it. And it was a play area for kids. We can imagine all of the things that you can do on a creek. Well, Stub and I were up and down that creek all of the time. As a matter of fact, his mother made the observation one time that a neighbor stopped by down, we did a lot of time on Walt Cantrell's old home place. And of course, that was Aunt Liz's home place as well. Stopped by and said, you know, the kids are out there in the creek and this is wintertime. She remarked, well, they stay out there all the time. And we did. We maybe had a little through frozen feet, but it was time that we spent together and we're doing things together, and we were up and down that creek. Another place, which was at the head of Hurricane Creek or Harkin Creek, was the Boog Hollow. And this was a place, a sanctuary for Stub. He really loved being in the Boog Hollow. And some of the earliest times that I can remember, we couldn't be more than 6, 7 years old, that we spent time down there. And we went up and down that creek in every direction. And I guess we caught every minnow, every spring lizard, and every crawfish that was in that creek. And there was, at the time that we were doing this, the old home place of Boog Farrell was still there. And we'd always heard that it was a scary place. So anyway, being two brave kids, we went up to the old house one time, and we were going to go into it, and we did. We got into the first hallway of the house, and I got afraid of it. I turned around and I took off and left Stub there by himself. And he came out and he said, what's wrong with you? I said, I thought I saw a ghost. You didn't see a ghost, you were just afraid. So I admit that I was. You get to seeing things. And as I remember that we spent time together in school, Stub was always prepared. You know, Kim Spencer and I talked about this a little bit. Stub was always prepared with his classes. He came to school prepared and ready to study. And back in those days, that was really important for a student to be able to do that. And he helped us, all the rest of us, those who didn't come prepared, like myself. He helped us do the math, do the reading, do all of the things that was necessary for a good student. He was that kind of person even when he was a kid, and had a lot of respect from all of the kids up and down the Cookeville Highway. And I might add this, the Cookeville Highway gang, which got to be quite famous in the 1950s, was the original idea of Stub. And all of the kids up and down that highway had nicknames. And the reason we called him Stub is because he always wore a flat top. So that's how he got his nickname. And it stuck with him, and he seemed to enjoy it over the years. But I might add, Stub was so smart and innovative. Not only did he make the walking sticks, but he had a little place out back where he kept items that you would normally throw away, and he created wonderful little mementos out back. And he would take you back there and show them to you. And I can't imagine anyone who would make anything any beautiful than what he did with old items. And you have to remember, this guy had a ginseng and yellow root garden out the back of his shed. Now, if you know anything about ginseng and yellow root, it normally grows in the wild, and you can't make a bed of it. But he was so smart and creative that he was able to do that. He had that ginseng and yellow root out there in the back. Now, going back to the 1950s, one of the great things that the Cookeville Highway Gang did is they were not a gang, but we just got together, especially on the weekends. We did everything together. There was, I don't know, it was somewhere around 15 or 20 of us, kids that lived up and down the Cookeville Highway. We'd get together, we'd play football, we'd play basketball, we'd go fishing together, we'd go swimming together, and box together. We had these large boxing gloves. Kim and I were discussing, we don't know where they came from, and we don't know what happened to them. But they were like 20 ounces, and you hit somebody, you couldn't hurt them. Well, Stub and I were in the front yard at our old home place, and we were boxing one afternoon. And I was getting a little bit of the best of him, and somebody pulled up in the driveway. I turned around to take a look, and the next thing I knew, Stub came from way back here, hit me upside the head, and I was about 10 foot back this way. So that ended my stint in the boxing that day. So he got the best of me. Those are the kinds of things that really stick with you when you're together like that as a group of boys that lived all there together. We did so many of those kinds of things. Recently, and I don't remember exactly whether it was a couple of years ago, Stub, when I'd come to visit him, he was always sitting in the back next to the shed. And a lot of times there was a kitty cat that sat back there with him. And they seemed to enjoy that. But this was one early summer day. I pulled in, and he said, "Hey, cousin, come on back and have a seat." I said, "Okay." We talked about several things, and he said, "Well, I want to tell you a story." Stub always had some good stories to tell you. I've been reading about the early Americans, the Native Americans, and it seemed that before we had settlers here, that he went on, that the settlers didn't know who these people were. This was like when they had just one tribe. It must have been 25 or 30,000 years ago, he said. I did a little research on this. And it seemed that this one tribe had one chief or one leader. And this leader called all of his tribes together to meet somewhere in the southeast in the great forest that existed at that time. The forest was so large, he said, that 10 men couldn't, a tree, it'd take 10 men to reach around it. And he said they met in the great forest here in the eastern United States. And he called together all of the leaders of each one of those tribes. And he said to them, this is Stub telling me, he said to them, "I'm getting old, and I need to appoint someone to take my place because I feel I won't be here much longer." And he went on to say, I have two sons, and I can't decide which one I should appoint to be the new chief. And he said, I've got Running Deer and Fallen Rock, and I can't decide which one should be the chief. So I'm going to give them a task. Stubbs said the task was to go into the wild, into the forest, and the first one to bring back the robe of the white bison will be the new chief when I pass away. And so Fallen Rock and Running Deer got together, and they got their best arrows and bows and spears, and they went off into different directions. Time passed, years passed, and they kept looking for Running Deer and Fallen Rock. And eventually, they saw one of them coming in the distance. And the old leader of the Indians ran to greet him, and it was Running Deer. He had the robe of the white bison. And so they made him the chief, but they kept looking for Fallen Rock. Where was he? He didn't show up. He wasn't there. And the old chief was on his dying bed, and he said to Running Deer, no matter what happens, you have to keep watching for Fallen Rock. And as time passed by, they sent out people to look for Fallen Rock. And Stubbs said, you know, to this day, they haven't found him, but they have signs on the highway, look for Fallen Rock. He really had me sucked into that. Stubbs is a man that we need to remember that he was smart, he was innovative, and he was a great storyteller. He loved his God, he loved his family, and he loved his neighbors. He was a happy guy. He had a heart of gold. He would help anyone that he could possibly help. Stubbs has fought the great fight, Thelma. He has finished the race, as we all will run someday, and he has kept the faith. He is respected and loved by all that know him. What else can you ask of a person? Thank you for being here, and may God bless you, and may God bless Stubbs' family. Thank you.